There's a certain kind of moment that doesn't make sense until you notice how often it happens. You're sitting with people. Maybe it's dinner, maybe it's work, maybe it's a room full of friends. Everyone is talking. Everyone is laughing. The conversation is moving naturally from one person to the next. And yet, somehow, a strange feeling remains. You're physically there, but something inside you feels absent. The interaction is happening around you, but not quite with you. No one has done anything wrong. No one has excluded you. And still, when the night ends, you leave with a feeling that's difficult to explain. A feeling that sounds almost contradictory. Lonely. Most people assume loneliness is simply the absence of people. The solution seems obvious. Meet more people. Go out more often. Stay connected. Be social. But there's something important hidden inside the experience that often gets overlooked. Because some of the loneliest people aren't alone at all. They're surrounded by people. They answer messages. They attend gatherings. They participate in conversations. Yet the feeling remains. And because the outside doesn't match the inside, many people begin questioning themselves. They wonder if they're being ungrateful, too sensitive, too difficult to satisfy, as if loneliness were a sign that something is wrong with them. But what if loneliness isn't always about being disconnected from people? What if it's about being disconnected from something else entirely? Because when psychologists study loneliness, they often describe it differently than most people expect. Loneliness is not simply the absence of social contact.
It's the gap between the connection you have and the connection your nervous system is looking for. And those are not always the same thing. You can spend an entire day talking to people and still never feel understood. You can share space with someone without sharing yourself. You can be included without feeling known. And that changes the way loneliness starts to look. What most people assume is that loneliness means not enough interaction. What psychology suggests is that loneliness often comes from not enough meaningful connection, and those are very different experiences. Researchers studying social connection have found that the brain responds differently to superficial interaction than it does to experiences that create genuine emotional understanding.
In simple terms, your nervous system isn't just tracking whether people are present. It's tracking whether you feel safe enough to be fully yourself around them. That distinction matters more than many people realize, because some people become extremely skilled at being socially present while remaining emotionally hidden. They know how to participate. They know how to respond. They know how to appear connected. But beneath that surface, large parts of who they are remain protected. Not because they want distance, because somewhere along the way, distance started to feel safer. This is where the story becomes more personal. People rarely learn emotional distance by accident. Often it develops through experience. Maybe vulnerability was met with criticism. Maybe emotions were ignored. Maybe certain feelings felt unwelcome. Maybe being accepted seemed to depend on being a particular version of yourself. When experiences like these repeat often enough, the nervous system adapts, quietly, gradually, without asking permission. The brain begins learning which parts of itself feel safe to show, and which parts feel safer to hide. Over time, a person can become incredibly good at functioning around others, while revealing very little of what is happening internally. From the outside, everything appears normal. From the inside, something feels missing. Because connection requires more than proximity. It requires visibility. And it is difficult to feel known when important parts of yourself never reach the surface. This is where an interesting paradox appears. The people who feel lonely around others are often not disconnected because they care too little. Sometimes they feel disconnected because they care deeply. They notice social dynamics. They notice changes in mood. They notice whether they belong. They notice whether people seem interested. They notice whether they are understood. Their awareness is constantly collecting information. What most people assume is insecurity What psychology suggests is heightened social monitoring. What might actually be happening is that the brain is working very hard to evaluate connection, and sometimes that effort creates distance instead of reducing it. Because when attention becomes focused on monitoring connection, it becomes harder to experience connection. The mind shifts into observation mode, analysis mode, evaluation mode. And those modes are useful for protection, but they are not always useful for presence. This creates another hidden layer.
The same sensitivity that allows someone to notice emotional details often allows them to notice emotional gaps. The same awareness that helps them understand others can make them painfully aware of moments when they themselves do not feel understood. The same depth that creates empathy can sometimes create isolation. Not because anything is wrong, because depth changes what feels meaningful. Small talk may satisfy some people. Others find themselves searching for something beneath it, a conversation that feels real, a moment of honesty, a sense of being seen without performing. And when those experiences are missing, loneliness can appear even in crowded rooms. Not because there are no people, because there is no feeling of recognition. This is why loneliness is not necessarily a social problem. Sometimes it is an emotional one, a nervous system problem, a visibility problem, a safety problem. And that distinction matters because it changes the question. The question stops being, why am I surrounded by people and still lonely? And becomes, how safe does my nervous system feel being fully known? Those are very different questions, and they often lead to very different answers. The truth is that many people spend years trying to solve loneliness by increasing contact. More conversations, more gatherings, more messages, more interaction. Sometimes that helps, sometimes it doesn't, because quantity and connection are not the same thing. A crowded room cannot automatically create belonging. A relationship cannot automatically create understanding. And presence cannot automatically create closeness. The feeling people are often searching for is something more specific. The feeling of being emotionally visible. The feeling that another person sees something real and stays. And if you've ever felt lonely while sitting beside people who genuinely cared about you, it may not mean something is missing inside you. It may simply mean your nervous system has learned to measure connection in a deeper way than most people realize. That doesn't make your experience wrong. It doesn't make it better or worse than anyone else's. It simply means your mind may be searching for something more than interaction. It may be searching for recognition, for understanding, for emotional safety. And if this felt familiar, there may be another layer beneath it. Because for many people, loneliness is not actually about being alone. It's about how the brain learns when it is safe to truly be seen.